All right. Welcome, driver education students. Today we have a lesson that is all about you. It's all about you guys, drivers under the age of 21. You can see right here Illinois Rules of the Road, Chapter 3, drivers under the age of 21. So, you guys, whenever you get your permit, you'll be 15. Some of you are already 15. But for the next 6 years, you're going to be in this category. So, what we're going to be talking about today are all of the rules that apply to you guys, all of the special restrictions that you have to follow because you're under the age of 21. Once you get to the age of 21, some other things open up. But hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and let's get into today's lecture and figure out what it is that applies to you guys that's a little bit different for you than it is for people that are older than the age of 21. So like your parents or me. Drivers under the age of 21. In Illinois, most people under age 18 learn to drive in high school. That's what you guys are doing in an approved driver education class. That's what you are in right now. You're in an approved driver education class. As you guys already know, that requires at least 30 hours of classroom study and at least 6 hours of behind the wheel training. That's what the driver ed class requires. And it also has those 6 hours of observation. You know, those are kind of like secondary in thought, but you do have to complete 6 hours of observation in addition to the behind the wheel training. So you get behind the wheel training when you're in the driver's ed car driving. You get behind the wheel observation when you're in the back seat observing. So that's how you get those two things. What about obtaining an instruction permit? That's what we're talking about here. Your learner's permit. How do you go about getting that thing? Well, you have to be at least 15 years of age. So if you're only 14 yet, you can't get it. Even if you're 15, you're not going to get it until we take the test, which will happen in a couple of weeks, okay? Maybe about 3 weeks, I'm guessing. I haven't actually written it out yet because it just kind of depends on how quickly we get through all of this information. You have to be enrolled in driver education. You got to be in this class. Congratulations, you are. Your instruction is valid for 24 months or 2 years. So you once you get your permit, it's good for 2 years. Now, most of you won't have it anywhere near that long. You will have your permit for probably about a year. You know, if you get it around your 15th birthday, you're going to get your license on your 16th birthday. That's how long you'll have your permit. Your permit has to be held for at least 9 months. We've been over this before. You have to have it for a minimum of 9 months. So if you don't get your permit until you're 15 and a half, you're not going to get your license until you're 16 and 3 months. That's just the way it is. All right, the supervising drivers. When you get your permit, who can supervise you? Well, number one is your parent or legal guardian. They can supervise you, assuming they've got a valid license. A responsible adult that's 21 or older with a valid license and at least 1 year of experience. So they have to have had that valid license for at least 1 year. Remember, you don't get to decide who's responsible. You got to check with your parents. And then, of course, me, your driver's ed instructor. I can be your supervisor too, but I only supervise you for the 6 hours of behind the wheel. Don't call me up on a Saturday and go, hey, Mr. Smith, I need to get some of my 50 hours in. You want to go driving? No, I don't. All right, supervised driving at home. Like we said, you got to have 50 hours of behind the wheel supervised driving. 10 of those hours have to be at night. So that's not a total of 60, that's a total of 50. And at least 10 have to be after the sun goes down and before it comes up in the morning. Okay. The other 40 can be all daytime or they can be part daytime, part nighttime, but at least 10 have to be at night. Okay, so that's your practice driving. That's what you've got to do for your practice driving. 50 hours at home, 6 hours with the driver's ed instructor, and that takes care of that category. What about when it's time to go and apply for a driver's license? Well, if you're under the age of 18 and you want to go to the DMV, we don't really call it that in Illinois, you want to go to the driver services facility and you want to get a license, here's what you've got to have. A sip of coffee. And then you got to have your instruction permit. You got to have acceptable forms of ID. Those are found on page 104 in the rules of the road book, unless you want the real ID. And that's just a fancy word for, it's not a fancy word. It's just, so a regular ID is fine. But if you want the real ID, which is a category of ID that lets you get into like some other countries, and I don't even understand it all. But anyway, there's extra requirements for it. Those are found on page 6. So you got to have your acceptable forms of ID. You've got to have an affidavit or consent for minor to drive. What does that mean? That means your parents sign the form and it says, yeah, they're okay with you driving. You also will want to have a cooperative driver testing certificate. You only get that if you get an A or a B in this class, and then you do well in your behind the wheel driving. And so that cooperative driver testing certificate, that's your driving test. So if you take your driving test with me, you'll get one of these. If you get a C or lower in this class, you won't get one of those, but you can still get your license. And then you got to keep track of your 50 hours, and you got to take that with you to go get your license. So when you get your license, what do you need? Instruction permit, acceptable forms of ID, your parent's signature, your CDTP, cooperative driver testing certificate, and your 50-hour log. You got 5 things listed there. All right, let's say that you are age 18 to 20 and you never got your license. This is going to be the first time you ever got your license, okay? I don't know. This probably isn't going to apply to the vast majority of you, but if you find yourself in that situation, let's say you failed driver's ed. Let's say you're like, heck with it. I'm not going to take driver's ed again. I'm just going to wait till I'm 18. Well, you can do that, okay? You can do that. When you get to 18, you will have to complete a 6-hour adult driver education course. Now you know. Graduated Driver's Licensing Program. What is this? It's the Illinois GDL for short, Graduated Driver Licensing. Okay, Illinois GDL program. It's got 3 progressive stages. You guys are getting ready to enter the permit phase. That's the first phase. We're going to talk about it. Then you'll move to the initial licensing phase. Then you'll move to the full licensing phase. You have to earn your way from one phase to the next. How do you earn your way from one phase to the next? Not screwing up. If you can manage to get through each phase without screwing up, you get to move on to the next phase. Permit phase at age 15. So this is our first phase here. At age 15, you, with any luck, will enter the permit phase. Permit phase does come with some restrictions. You have nighttime driving restrictions, even if you're with your parents, which you better be because, you can't drive by yourself. Even if you're with your parents or some responsible adult 21 or older that's had their license for at least a year, if you're with them, you still have to quit driving at 10 p.m. during the week and 11 p.m. on the weekend. You're not allowed to drive after that. Even if you're being supervised, you are not allowed to be the driver. So you can't say, hey, I'm trying to get my nighttime hours in. You guys from the state told me I had to get nighttime hours in, so I'm driving around at 2 a.m. with my mom. No, can't do it. Permit has to be held for a minimum of 9 months. You guys know that. Must practice driving a minimum of 50 hours. You know all of that already. Ooh, here's something we haven't talked about yet. Yeah, we talked about it a little bit. You cannot acquire any driving convictions or underage alcohol convictions during the 9-month permit phase. We've talked about this. If you get that driving conviction, your 9 months starts over. You also cannot get an underage alcohol conviction. If you get that, your 9 months starts over. Real quick, the easiest way to get an underage alcohol conviction is to simply be at an underage drinking party. You don't even have to have a beer in your hand. You don't even have to have any alcohol in your system. If you're simply at the party, it's considered possession of alcohol. Now, we're talking about an underage drinking party here, a party where underage drinking is taking place. We're not talking about Uncle Frank's 45th birthday party and some adults are having some adult beverages. We're talking about an underage drinking party. It doesn't mean everybody there has to be underage. It means underage drinking has to be taking place. And if that's the case and you're there and that party gets busted, even if you're not drinking, boom, 9 months starts over, you got yourself a conviction. Okay, what else about the permit phase at age 15? Well, your number of passengers is limited to one in the front seat. Guess who that's got to be? That's got to be the person supervising your driving. And the number of safety belts in the back seat. So in most vehicles, we're talking about a total of 4 people, not counting yourself. So 1 person supervising, 3 people in the back. You don't have to have that many people. That's just the maximum. Also, no cell phone usage until age 19, except for emergencies that require the calling of 911. Your permit is valid for 2 years. As we said, most of you won't use it for 2 years, but there you go. All right. Hey, this is a happy day right here, all right? We're done with the permit phase. We're moving on to the initial licensing phase. You are age 16. You've got your license. What changes? What stays the same? Well, what stays the same are nighttime driving restrictions. They stay the same. That means you cannot drive after 10 p.m. during the week, and you cannot drive after 11 on the weekends. Basically, if you would have school the next day, 10 o'clock. If you would not have school the next day, 11 o'clock. The only problem with that is it doesn't work during summer because you don't have school during the summer, but these hours are the same during the summer, okay? So Sunday through Thursday, 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 11 p.m. And by the way, your license doesn't become valid until 6 a.m. So if you're out trying to drive at 4 o'clock in the morning, doesn't work. You can't just say, well, I'm an early riser. Early bird gets the worm. I thought I'd come out here and drive. No, doesn't work. You must maintain a conviction-free driving record for 6 months prior to turning 18. Okay, so these rules here about curfew hours, you have to make sure that you don't have any driving convictions in the 6-month period prior to turning 18. Otherwise, these rules don't go away. They just stay around. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of text on this page. Oh, I know why there's a lot of text on this page. This is a good one. All right, well, it's not a good one for you, but it's a good one. No cell phone usage until age 19. You already know that. That wasn't the one I was talking about. Here's the one I'm talking about. Now, you won't see this listed in the rules of the road book as the one friend rule. That's what I call it. The rule says for the first 12 months of licensing, I can't hold up 12 fingers because I don't have 12 fingers. For the first 12 months of licensing or until the driver turns 18, whichever occurs first, the number of passengers is limited to 1 person under age 20, unless the passenger is a sibling. After this period, the number of passengers is limited to 1 in the front seat and the number of safety belts in the back seat. What does that mean? You get to have 1 friend in the car. That's it. No more than 1 friend for the first 12 months of licensing. So if you get your license right on your 16th birthday, that means on your 17th birthday, this rule goes away. If you get your license at 16 and 3 months, that means this rule doesn't go away until 17 and 3 months. That's what this rule means. All right. So let's talk about the whole sibling thing. It says, you can, if you've got brothers and sisters, they can be in the car and they don't count as your 1 friend under the age of 20. Totally fine. You can have brothers and sisters in the car. It doesn't matter if they're a stepbrother, stepsister, half brother, half sister. If the word brother or sister is in the name, then they don't count as a friend, unless we're talking about like soul sister, soul brother. If you guys just like consider yourselves brothers and sisters, no, best friend does not get to be brother or sister just because you're like, oh yeah, we're like brother and sister. No, it doesn't work that way. And the age is 20. So if you've got somebody that's 20 or older, then they don't count as this either. Okay, so we're talking about people under the age of 20, teenagers that you can have in the car, and the number is 1. All right, hey, we get to move now to the full licensing phase. Ages 18 to 20. There are no age-related restrictions, except in cases where you fail to move up. Remember we said you got to earn your way up to the next phase? Well, if you had a violation in the 6 months leading up to this phase, then you don't get to move to this phase yet. But otherwise, we're moving into this phase. No age-related restrictions except for that cell phone one. You still can't use a cell phone. And when we're saying you can't use a cell phone, we mean not even hands-free, not even through the Bluetooth in your vehicle, not even if you got one of those things growing out of your ear. Can't use it, all right? Not at all. No. Unless you're calling 911 because, some creeper's following you and you think you're going to get abducted or whatever. Yeah, then you can call 911. Parental responsibility. I love this slide. You guys will hate it, but I love this slide. You must have your parents' consent to obtain a permit or license. There are 3 signatures that you have to get on your permit. Okay, when you fill out your permit application, your driver's license application, those are the same thing. You only fill out one application. It's a permit and driver's license application. When you fill out that application, there are 3 signatures that you've got to have on it before you go to the DMV. One signature is your own. If you don't know how to sign your name, start practicing. Another signature is your parent or legal guardians. And a third signature is mine. You got to have my signature, so don't make me mad. So you got to have these. If you don't have your parents' consent, you don't get your license, okay? And your parents have the ability to remove their consent at any time prior to the age of 18. All they got to do is contact the Secretary of State and say, hey, my kid's being a little jerk. Take away their license. Boom, license, gone. Parents also have access to your driving record. All they got to do is go to cyberdriveillinois.com. There's a little form there they fill out, and the state of Illinois sends them your driving record so they can see every time you've been pulled over or gotten a ticket or any of that kind of stuff. Can't hide it from them. It's there. Court supervision. Court supervision. So what's court supervision? Well, if you're asking that question, that's a good thing, okay? You shouldn't know what court supervision is at your age. But here you go. Here's what court supervision is. Let's say that you get a ticket and you're like, man, that ticket's going to go on my record and that's going to make my insurance go up. That's going to, I might get my license suspended if I get another ticket. Oh man, I really don't want to get another ticket. What if there were a way I could have like a do-over? I know, like a do-over. That's basically what court supervision is. If you're, so you get a ticket, you go to court, you plead your case to the judge, you request court supervision, you got to pay some extra fees, and the judge says, all right, tell you what, you seem like you're a good person, but just in case you're not, and you're trying to pull a fast one on me, we're going to give you court supervision. We're going to say, you know what, all right, we're just going to kind of pretend that this didn't happen. You still got to pay the money, but we're not going to put this ticket on your record. But if you mess up and you get another ticket, they're both going on your record. Both tickets are going on your record. So that's what court supervision is. You are limited to one court supervision. You can't go in, if you get court supervision, then you get another ticket, you can't go in and say, hey, judge, remember me? Can I have court supervision again? No, one. Drivers under the age of 18 have to have a parent appear in court with them. So if you are going to go to court and ask for court supervision, mom or dad's got to be right there by your side. Suspension. You can have your permit or license suspended. A driver under the age of 21 who is convicted of 2 or more violations within a 24-month period. That's 2 years if you're not good at math. 2 or more moving violations within a 24-month period. You will have your license suspended for a minimum of 30 days, about a month, but it just depends on the month, but a minimum of 30 days. It's not always 30 days. Sometimes it's more than that. It depends on how serious the violations are. So it's a minimum of 30 days. It might be more. So 2 tickets in 24 months. So let's say you get a ticket when you turn 16. That means you cannot get another ticket before your 18th birthday. Otherwise, you're going to lose your license for a minimum of a month. So let's make sure that doesn't happen. Don't get a ticket. If you're under the age of 21 and you receive court supervision for possession, consumption, purchase, receipt of alcohol, you will receive a 3-month driver's license suspension, and you'll get a court date. That's not listed on here, but you will. You're going to court. So you get a 3-month suspension of your driver's license. You got to go to court. When you go to court, if the judge says, wham, convicted, and they drop the gavel on you, then you're going to have a 6-month suspension of your driving privileges. So I think I think the 3 months that you've already spent serves as part of that overall 6 month. But anyway, you're not getting your license back anytime soon. So that's any underage alcohol related infraction. Possession, consumption, purchase or receipt of alcohol. Illegal transportation would even fall into this category too, because illegal transportation is a form of possession. So all of those kinds of things would fall into this category. Don't mess around with alcohol. It's bad for you. Suspension and denial. All right, so suspension is they take away your license for a little bit. Denial is you're asking for a license and they say, nah, you're not getting it yet. So suspension, you can have your license suspended for violating nighttime driving restrictions, driving after 10 p.m. during the week or after 11 p.m. on the weekend. You can have your license denied for any crash involving bodily harm or death. So let's say whenever you're on your permit, whenever you're 15, you get in a crash and somebody gets hurt or killed. When you go to apply for your license at 16, they can say, no, I don't think so. Non-adjudicated traffic citation. What a big fancy word, non-adjudicated. That just means that, you're towards the end of your permit phase and you get a ticket and that ticket hasn't made it through the court system yet. They're not going to issue your license yet. They're going to say, you know what, you need to get this ticket thing cleared up and then we'll talk about giving you your license. That's what that means. Hey, that's the last slide. So there you go, an entire lecture all about the things that apply to you guys, the things that are going to affect you as drivers under the age of 21. So I hope you learned something today. I hope you got something out of this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it a little bit. But even if you didn't, just like my favorite professor, Dr. Phillips, used to say, it's better than a sharp stick in the eye. We'll see you.